Welcome to our special episode with me, Preeti Gautam, founder of Theatre in You. And today we have with us our special guest, Dr. Koni K. Chung. She's an educator and an associate director with Harvard Graduate School. Today she'll be talking about her beautiful book, which is called When We Thrive, Our World Thrives. So I welcome Dr. Koni K. Chung. So, Dr. Koni, first of all, I welcome you. I welcome you to my beautiful episode, which is dedicated to your book, and it's an amazing book. It's called "When We Thrive, Our World Thrives." So, I would like to know that there is a mention about a dream in this book throughout. So, what is it? When did you start this, and what was the motive of starting this?
Okay, so I'll talk a little bit about how we got the book started, and then I'll hand off to Ravana, who is actually one of the staff members of Dream a Dream, to talk a little bit about the organization. But the book started back I met Dream a Dream's co-founder, Vishal Tareja, who is one of the co-authors of the book, back in, I believe it was 2016, January in Delhi. I was the associate director of the Global Education Innovation Initiative at Harvard, and we were doing a research around who are the best organizations in the world who are supporting teachers in teaching the whole child, meaning not just the academics and getting a good job in a good school, but really about social emotional learning and creativity and leadership and all of this. And our Indian partners nominated Dream a Dream as the organization. So we met in Delhi in January of 2016, and then we wrote that. I wrote that book, which was then released later on. But after I left Harvard, Vishal invited me to come to Bangalore to learn a little bit more about Dream a Dream, and then write a whole book that was devoted to Dream a Dream. So the first book, there had been only one chapter on Dream a Dream, but this one we decided would be good to write a whole book on it. So that's how the project started. And then I'll hand it off to Ravana to talk a little bit more about what Dream a Dream actually is and does.
Yeah. So, Ravana, before you could start, you would not believe you were the first person I could start reading in this book, because you and me, we share a common connection. You like to swim. I have been a national level swimmer. So, the moment I was just fiddling in the book and I saw, I somehow liked your picture also. And, and I saw somewhere a swimming thing. I said, okay, let me start reading from here. And I really liked quite few things about you. Like you would go to school, but you would like to skip school, and and you would like to do other things and not going to school. So I think that's quite interesting, and how you nurtured your life later. That was phenomenally commendable. Yes. Now I would like to know from you, how was your journey with Dream and Dream? How did you get connected with them? And how much influence Dream a Dream uh, is keeps in your life, and also to keep you going further in life?
Yeah. So as you mentioned, I was very hating to stay in school system. So I felt that initially the terminology has changed. So earlier they used to teach us how to learn, but now we are learning to read, write, all those things. So I basically ran away from a small village because the school system didn't help me to stay here. So when I landed in urban, one of the organization called POSCO, they rescued me and they gave me the shelter. They want me to go school, but since I had a terrible experience in school system, I don't want to go into that. But I was keen on going into sports. But if I go to school only, I will be having that opportunity to enroll all the sports activities and be in extracurricular activities. So that's the time Vishal and his team used to come and spend time with a organization, Shelter Home, called Bosco Money. So there they used to conduct a lot of sports activity. So it was quite exciting me. So the Dream started in 1999. So formally they started with the 12 volunteers who used to work in corporate sector. So their weekends they used to come and spend time with shelter home and different shelter homes. Not only Bosco, they had another hostel as well. So they used to come and spend time, and they were thinking what else can we give, because shelter home used to give food, shelter, clothes, basic needs what they need. So then they discovered so they need to teach life skills, and they formed so the main objective of the organization is to empower young people who are coming from vulnerable background to thrive in fast changing world. So that's how the organization started. So they also introduced many sports activity that's inspired me. So because of continuing sports, I joined Dream Dream, and also the way they used to conduct the session, there was totally non-judgmental things because I had got many opportunities to try out. Uh, Even though I was interested, so swimming was most excited me to be there and continue my passions. So I swam for Karnataka for 5 years and
Yeah, I
represented
read.
other state and all. So it given me a identity to explore my outer world. And also we use our Dream as a creative arts program. So three we have three approach. One is direct delivery, another one is kind of replication model. And also we have a narrative building approach. So in sports, we use football as a medium to help young people to develop life skills. In arts also similar way we used to work. So after school program for grade 4 to 10th grade, and next we have a career connect program. So there we work with the youth. There also we focus developing life skills using computer scholarship program and also spoken English.
Lovely. In fact, while reading this book, honestly, it was an eye opener for me as well. That's because, how Indian raise their children is very different from how they are raised abroad. Uh, we as parents, not me, but if I look back when I was a child, parents would not like to say sorry to their children, even if they're wrong, because they have not been taught that, because according to them, they feel that, you saying sorry to somebody who's younger, especially your children, is not right. So I read somewhere in the book, that how important it is to feel a child, valuable in a house, that even child suggestions are taken seriously, child is comfortable at home. And so many times parents do wrong, they do wrong, they end up making certain image of a child which is incorrect, but they're not able to say sorry. So I realized that, even I honestly felt it much earlier in my life, that there's no harm saying sorry to your children, because you could also be wrong. And also, I think many places I saw in this book that it was mentioned that for a child, it is so important to feel that his or her house should be the most comfortable place, that they can speak their mind without any fear, without being judged. And I think this is the core reason that children are not able, that's the reason they end up taking wrong directions, because probably they don't feel that their thoughts would be taken seriously, or probably if they have done something wrong, if they share this at home, they would be they would be treated in a different manner. And where I read in Dream a Dream that there was somebody, I'm forgetting the name, and he was he was a part of Dream a Dream, like he came as a child, and he was there with Dream a Dream for some time, and then he left to his village, and Dream a Dream staff was looking for him, and then they went to his village. He was caught playing cards and doing something not very good, and instead of scolding him, they offered him a lunch, outside. I felt so good, that because, if you would have reacted there and there, the child must have felt bad and probably would have become rebel. And they offered him a lunch, and what a nice gesture. Like, you know those, it sounds very normal, but I know it's not normal when you see somebody, you have made so much of effort to that person, and he's still doing wrong things. You can't control your anger, but the gesture was so uncommon and so good. So I would like to know that, in especially in Dream a Dream, in this book, what kind of thought process your facilitators or your teacher keep in mind while dealing with children who come from different backgrounds? That's a question, how do you deal with children who come from different backgrounds, who are not very good, who are rebel, who don't like to listen to you, who don't like to behave properly, who want to run away, and who don't realize that they are here to do something good, they don't want to change. So, how do you shape them up?
I think it starts off with just a fundamental respect for the individual person who is the child. So like children is limited by time, right? If children eventually grow up to be adults, they don't remain children forever. So who you are, who you have in front of you is somebody who is going to grow up and be an adult and be a member of society. And I think it's important to see the child not just as someone who's a younger version of a adult, but an actual real person with real feelings and real thoughts. And so how would you treat anybody with real feelings and with real thoughts is where, we start in ourselves. So it has less to do with a child as it is about ourselves and how we treat other people on a fundamental basis, regardless of gender, regardless of caste, regardless of background, regardless of religion. And I think that's something fundamental that Dream a Dream staff members and facilitators have as a core value. How do we treat people with dignity, whether they're young or old, or woman or man, or something in between, or, a Muslim, a Hindu, a Christian, a non-religious person, an atheist, or whatnot. And when a person feels that, whether that's an old person or a young person, people behave differently, right? When they feel respected, then they respect you back in most cases. So I think you started off really well with, that example of most, people don't apologize when there's been a mistake because maybe they've been punished, right, when there's been a mistake that has been made. So we got to also, look at that too. So in prior instances when they've made a mistake, they were punished. And so there's a fear in admitting, that there was a mistake that had been made. And so I think that's why when children make mistakes and Dream a Dream, there isn't that punishment. There is that holding space and an acknowledgement that learning, making mistakes is part of learning. You can't learn without making mistakes. We can't learn to walk without falling down. And so, having a culture where the mistakes are not seen as something to be punished, but something to learn from and move on from, I think creates a climate that feels safe. And when people feel safe, then they're able to, take risks, which is again part of learning. Learning is about taking risks and making mistakes. And so I think that creating that fundamental environment of safety and trust and respect, it's so basic, but again, a lot of us don't do it because of the way that we were, raised, or we were treated. And so it's flipping a switch, and it's about re-engineering that process. And I think it's a healing process. Again, if you come from an environment where you were not respected, where you were punished, being in an environment where where you are honored and respected is a very healing place to be. Rebana, you please add.
Yeah, and as Connie is saying that we are also believing that so when we empower with life skills, we are able to help others to develop life skills. So that's one of the core belief system we have. So all the staffs were trained and empowered, so themselves to have a non-judgmental space, authentically share their story, them to become vulnerable. So more than that, last 20 years we invested on the field to understand the adversity, so where children are coming from. So they already neglected, they are already judged, they already so many experience made them they are worthless, and also they are hard by the continuously from adult, you are not worthy. So we understood that one in our session. We don't want to reinforce that one. So the children are growing up so much of conditional, so we want to show them there is a different ways for them to rise in their life. So understanding those adversity are helping us to help the children to find that one. And also, we believe that each child is unique, so we respect those uniqueness. And so, a lot of insight we have that in that. So, we all respond to caring and compassionate adult. So, our facilitator, our staff members at Dream Dream will be able to role model that. So, if I chosen if I make a appropriate decision for my life, so I have taken one of the person as a inspiration. So those replications are happening, ripples are happening around the community where we work. So showing the children. So not to take where we wanted to the children to be, but being with the child and walking with them where they wanted to take their life. So those responsibility will be created, and safety and trust are reinforcing children to continue their journey, what they wanted to become in
Yeah.
their life.
In fact, it's so amazing to see, Rivana, like looking amazing to see you, the kind of background you come from, and how well spoken you are, how confident you are. Honestly, I'm amazed, you know. So I can give that credit to Dream a Dream to polish you. Can
Definitely.
I? All right.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
that's lovely.
definitely.
In fact, there was one more heart-touching instance in this book, and I shared that with my student also. Since I teach theater, so I liked it so much that I thought that I should share this. So when a child is behaving in certain manner or behaved in certain manner, there's a core reason behind it. We only see what is happening now, present. The child is yelling to us, is rebel to us, not listening to us, behaving badly. But I don't think any human would like to behave in a bad manner or in an appropriate manner. If he or she is doing that, there is a reason behind it, core reason. So there was person, I'm forgetting his name or her name, his actually, where he would take drugs. And I think a dream facilitator or a role model must have asked him that why do you do it, and so I think for some time he did not share, and one fine day when he could develop faith, in his facilitators, he shared that I don't like taking it. I take it because all I get to eat is a trash, what people leave on the streets, leftover, and I have to eat because I have to fill my stomach. I'm hungry, and when I wake up next morning, I don't want to remember that what I ate, because if I remember, it would make me feel disaster, which any human would feel. So it really touched my heart that we still have such I would not say poverty, but we still have people who can't even afford 3 meals in a day, which is so sad. And they don't have a direction that so that they can probably make their future better. And I'm amazed at how Dream a Dream could help them to at least nurture their future, you know so when you meet such first of all, I need to know, you know these children like you, when you were a child, how how easy were you for you to connect with Dream a Dream, like you know uh, you came to Moscow and then this happened. So how many people, how many children are getting this opportunity to nurture? You were one of the lucky ones. But we are a country of huge population. We are number one in actually in population in the entire world. But and there are many, I would say many is an understatement. We have so many who needs these nurture, like the way Dr. Koni said, you should leave caste, creed. And there was an instance where people would judge you by your surname, so somebody gave a common surname, which is so good, because back in your mind, even now, when when I'm not I'm not too old generation, we still the kind of the kind of the kind of upbringing we have been given, we always tend to ask that what is your full name, and then we try to relate that where this person is from and what kind of background, and so which is so wrong. And I have not inculcate that to my children. In fact, once my son came to me and he asked me, like somebody was asking me, are you Hindu, Muslim, or something, in a school, so could you please tell me who am I, so I told him, I said, what did you reply? So he said, I said, I'm Christian because I like church. So I honestly I've still not inculcated that, because mine is an inter caste marriage and things like that, and I think each human is should be treated like a human. So in Dream a Dream, I want to know that, how are you able to manage people who come from different caste, creed, religion? Because somewhere in their mind they always have this thought process that, I am this, you are this, and even I think it was you, or it was you only, that you had to convince people to get married to somebody who is an upper caste or something. Somebody in a book mentioned, so how how what's how are you making uh, to change this thing in a society?
So our next 5 years strategy is that to shift the mindset of people to reimagine the purpose of education, young
Yeah.
people to thrive. So that's the intention what we are coming. So the approaches what we are using earlier mentioned. So one is direct delivery. So where we have two innovation lab. So one is after school and one is career connect. There we implement all the practices and we learn from there and we get the insights and pass on to the system demonstration team. So the system demonstration team is working with policymakers, education institute, education minister like that. So right now we are in happiness curriculum Delhi. We are working with the Jharkhand government. We are working with Telangana government. We are working with Karnataka government. So wherever the doors are open for us to demonstrate how important to empower young people, not only preparing for their examination, so preparing for them to lead their life. So that's the mindset we are trying to bring. It is too challenging. So changing mindset of people, it's very deeply wired in their culture, their social connection,
Absolutely.
all those things. But so we are pushing ourselves wherever we are getting opportunity. There we are seeding the seeds to reimagine the purpose of education. So the COVID had opened the door because till 2019. So kind of talking about life skills or SEL, it was tough. So everybody focusing on literacy, numeracy, all those things. But now there is a opportunity globally to talk about the importance of life skills and helping young people to make appropriate decisions and share their dreams. So so that's how we are also using another strategy to building the narrative. When we try World Drive book is one of the research study, the evidence-based study. So where all 20 stories are unique story, which brings all the religions. There are a Muslim, there is a Christian, there is a other state person, and also there is a Dalit. All the peoples are there. So like that, we are building narration around the young person who can reimagine. They can voice it out what they really wanted. So that's how three strategy, direct delivery, system demonstration, building the narration around the policymakers, or we are trying to uh, start influencing to change that mindset of people.
And
Only you want to add?
it is primarily based in South, right? Dream a Dream.
The direct delivery programs are delivered in Bangalore. So the system demonstration are delivered across India, and also we worked with the Kenya Aga Khan Foundation. There also we shared our approach and best practices by training their teachers them to become facilitator. And also the main objective working with government sector is to change their mindset, giving equal priority for life skills education or SCL education in the system. So by training all teachers, teacher's role is not only teaching the content what is there in the book. So there is a beyond that. So as
Absolutely.
you mentioned, if there if there is a behavior or negative behavior, behind that there is a strength the child is showing, the need the child is asking. So most of the children whom we came across our vulnerable background, so they are very hunger of appreciation, recognition or opportunities. Those when they are not able to get those, they will become violent. They
Right.
will show those behaviors to get that attention and get that opportunities. So that's how we are equipping the teachers, the adult who are working with the children to become a facilitator and be a caring and compassionate adult in their life. So, and also the research what we have done, there is a sensitive periods where the child grows from 0 to 10 year or 0 to adulthood. So when the child miss the sensitive period, the failure to thrive happens. They will be catching up. So whatever they need to perform or show behavior in the first grade, so they will be showing in second grade or third grade. So the amount of adversity impact the child, their behavior level will be growth will not happen. So those research studies are helping, and especially like the thriving book are helping us to promote or advocate the urgency of life skill education for children to overcome adversity.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah, I would only add that Dream of Dreams model came from a global model. So they brought in psychologists from the UK. They brought in sports facilitators from all over the world. The reason why Vishal asked me to write the book was because I brought in a global perspective around what works practically and also what research says around the world. So although they're based in Bangalore, as Ravana said, Dream of Dreams influence is impacting the rest of India, all of India, through state governments now. And then even abroad, their model has been recognized again globally. And when I, encountered Dream a Dream, I said, oh, these are the practices that I was doing in my classroom back in the United States when I was a teacher, and they worked. So many of the principles, again, regardless of background, I mean, backgrounds are important, but there are some universal principles around how humans develop. They need an environment in which they feel safe, when they feel empowered, where they feel supported, where they feel challenged, right? Where they feel like they're cared for. And so there are some, research-based principles that, that Dream is using that is universal in its application. So I think that's why I was very interested in writing the book, because Dream a Dream is able to show, even with children from the most adverse backgrounds, these principles that are universal really work if you can implement them correctly. So the challenge is always, again, I've been doing this for almost 30 years now as a teacher, as a researcher, as a bunch of different things. But the challenge is always in the implementation of how do you actually
Right.
execute this, right? The ideas everybody knows, but respect. I mean, everybody talks about respect, but what does that look like? What does that look like and feel like for a child? Or for a young adult, right? And that also is very different. Respect from a 5-year-old is different than a respect for a 15-year-old. So that's where, the stories in the book hopefully shows what that exactly looks like. So rather than just kind of, theoretically like talking about principles, the reason why there are 20 stories in the book and the reason why we designed the book in such a way is so that people can see. I mean, you remembered, right?
Yeah,
3 or 4 stories
absolutely. Yeah.
summarize for us, and that's what we I know as a researcher. I'm like, I've been doing research forever. I know that principles are nice, but at the end of the day, it's the stories that people remember. So that's why we went through the whole trouble of publishing a book of stories that has research principles and practice principles embedded in it, because we know that the stories are going to enable people to remember the principles and the examples of the practice.
Yeah, honestly, I would want this book to reach out to each and every school in India, because I plan to read this thrice. Because, sometimes you read, like the way you said, it's difficult to implement. everybody knows what is correct and what is incorrect. But when it comes to implementation, you have to train your mind, and it has to be, constant thing that you have to keep saying this. No, 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 no. You have to do it. You have to do it. You have to do it. So I did change. Like I would say sorry to my children, because I know I could also be wrong. But like if a child is behaving bad, you need to know the core reason. And sometimes, you just burst out. You have to relax. So that is what I learned it from this. So I would like to learn more, and I have planned to read it, as many number of times as I can. But like the way I said, we are a huge country, and I personally, honestly, would want, what you wrote should be implemented in all over entire country, because education is something which can change somebody's life. What you're doing is, I think, a great work. But again, it's challenging, because serving and catering to entire nation is very, very, very difficult. But at least somebody initiated. Till the time you don't initiate, everybody will just keep talking. So stories are commendable, there is no doubt. I think each story is heart touching, quite inspiring. And also, towards the end, I read that how you're following up. You spoke to them in 2019, and now last year you were following, like, where did they reach, what are they up into their life, what do they plan to do. So follow up is, I think, more important than starting, because you need to know what you inculcated, where is that particular thing leading. So tell me something, Dr. Koni, that since you're based abroad, how do you keep follow-ups, and how do you make sure that things are moving the way you want to?
Yeah, no, so I came alongside as somebody who is the writer of the book, and it's actually the people like Ravana and Vishal, who are, and the other staff members of Dream a Dream, who are keeping up with the book. But I again refer back to a story that I still remember, and I know it's universal because I heard it from Vishal, and I heard it from a friend of mine who is actually running a similar nonprofit in the United States. Is when COVID happened, Vishal said a young person that they hadn't seen in 5 years came to them and said, "Hey, my family is in dire trouble because of the repercussions of COVID. Could you help us?" And the reflection from that was, because of the relationship that was established while that young person was engaged with Dream a Dream, because of the care and the support that he felt from Dream a Dream in the worst possible circumstances that he had not seen before, which was COVID, the people that he sought to reach out to was Dream a Dream, because of that strength of that relationship. And the same thing is happening with my friend who was running a nonprofit in the United States, who is similarly, giving projects to children and having children lead. And again, during COVID, she was the organization, or her organization was the one that, people from low resource backgrounds would come and say, "Hey, we lost our home because we couldn't afford to pay rent. Could you help us find a new home? Could you help us find new furniture?" And so she became this kind of, community liaison because people felt safe. So I think the follow-up isn't just necessarily like, somebody with a notepad, like calling everybody and asking them how they're doing, which is important. But I think it's something that happens while you're engaged with that young person or their family, where they feel supported and safe. They carry that memory with them. And so even afterwards, they have that memory. And I've last time that I taught a class of, high school students was 17 years ago. And this past year, 2 of them reached out. It had been 17 years, but 2 of them reached out, found me somewhere, found my email address somewhere, and then reached out to say, "Hi, I still remember, your class from 17 years ago.
So
Here's
nice.
what I learned. Here's what I'm doing, with the things that you taught us. And here's why I think it's important. The things that you taught us was so important." So again, I think it's if we honor people with respect, if we give them the skills that we feel like, is helpful for them in life, they'll remember it, and they'll carry it forward. So again, I feel really privileged and lucky to continue to be engaged with Dream a Dream in this particular way. But again, I think it's the principles are universal. And I think if each of us who reads the book, no matter where we are in the world,
Yeah.
and apply whatever is applicable, right, in our context, then we can recreate, Dream a Dreams all over the world, or the principles, right, that are coming from Dream a Dream. So that's how I hope that to stay engaged. My contribution was, putting on paper the stories that people were carrying with their lives and in their hearts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So honestly, my conversation or my discussion on this book can be just unending, because I loved each page of it, each chapter of it, and I certainly would like to recommend this to my parents, to whom I am teaching. And I would love to meet you in person, Rivana. You are in US. I don't plan to travel to US soon, though I do have a visa, maybe next year, but whenever I'm in Bangalore, I would love to visit Dream a Dream. And if I could be a contributor, at any sense or any aspect, I would love to do that. Because somewhere you have to start if you want to make a change in society. If everybody puts little bit contribution from their end, I think we can make it.
And I think your idea about sharing with the parents of your students is brilliant, because I think that is one of the audiences that are really
Yeah.
impactful. Again, Revan, I can tell you, they started off by working with children, and then they realized, oh, if we really want to impact many, many children, we have to work with teachers. And then they thought, well, if we really want to really impact, then we got to work with parents. And so they've been kind of building out that model. And parents are definitely the part of the audience that we all want to reach. And so thank you for that suggestion, and we appreciate anything
No,
that
it
you
is
do.
totally my pleasure, because even when I started teaching theater, my whole agenda was to bring change in society. So if you want to bring change in society, you have to cater the youngest, because older people, they become adamant, they don't want to change. Younger ones, they are the ones who will be leading you tomorrow, adults of tomorrow. So if you can bring change in them, then after some years you'll feel everybody blooming. So, Rivana, here I will end this meeting. It was lovely meeting you all, and I do plan to have another session with you all. And I promise, whenever I'm in Bangalore next, I should certainly visit Dream a Dream.
Please, pleasure. So
Yeah,
we
wonderful.
welcome you.
It was lovely meeting you, Dr. Coney.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We
Bye.
were planning
Yeah.
an in-person lunch at the end of February, actually in Bangalore, and I was going to be there, but because of COVID, we've had to postpone it. But
Oh,
hopefully at some point later on. I mean, I haven't seen Ravana in 3 years, 4 years.
okay. All right. Okay, I'll end this meeting now. Thank you so much for your lovely and your precious time. And I'll share the recording with Chaya. All right.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Good
Thank
day.
you so
Bye.
much.
Bye.
Bye
Bye.
bye. Bye bye.